Welcome to the Cure for Chronic Pain podcast with me, Nicole Sachs. You are here. Hello, everybody. How are you guys today? This is Nicole Sachs, and you have reached my podcast, The Cure for Chronic Pain. Happy to be here with you guys today. You know, I hope that wherever you are in lifey life at this moment, you are not allowing it to get you down. And I don't mean you're not acknowledging the real and honest reactions you're having and emotions you're having about life, but I hope it's not keeping you stuck, keeping you underwater, because, you know, I had a week where it could have really done it to me. I was tempted to let things really get me down. And this is not, by the way, toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing. This is literally, life can be really challenging and it can really shake the foundations of the goodness that you know is inside of you and your efforts and your parenting and your work and your love relationships, whatever it is. So just know that if you can just pause and step back and have some perspective, you can do this work to clear away the static between what is really happening inside of you and how that meets the challenges and triggers of today. And you can, first of all, really get some clarity. And second of all, keep yourself from repressing those basic human emotions that sometimes can lead to symptoms and pain. So I hope this finds you well. And I have a really cool, interesting conversation with you guys today. So as you all know, my book is called Mind Your Body, which means I am always dancing in the space of the mind-body connection. I'm always being thoughtful about how our minds and our bodies interact, and the best way for me to teach you the kind of awareness that can allow you to be as healthy as possible. But one of the things I really want to focus on in the next year is opening the conversation to the actual physical experience of the body and being embodied. Because as much as it is the mind-body connection, I spend so much energy in the heart and in the mind. I spend so much energy in the mental and emotional and spiritual aspects of being alive. And there's also this physical body. There's also this thing, this vessel in which we live and how it moves through the world and how it is affected. And so I came upon Dr. Erica Siegel, and she was introduced to me by a dear friend. And I just became interested in understanding and having more conversations about what we can do, what is essential for the human body that is a great partner and a great addition to all of the work that we do here. And Dr. Siegel is an integrative physician. She's also an acupuncturist and an educator and a mom. And I told her when I first met her, and I say it on the pod, I sometimes have a little hesitation around integrative medicine because I have had people come to me over the years that have said, I went the integrative route. I paid thousands of dollars for supplements and tests about my gut, about whatever else. And it turned out after all this, you know, pain and suffering and elimination diets and money spent on testing, that it really all came down to TMS work. And I've done your work and I can eat anything I want and I'm, you know, free of symptoms. And this is not at all to say this applies to all integrative physicians at all, but I've had that story come to me enough that when I met Erica, I was like, tell me, explain to me what really is integrative medicine, what really is the goodness behind what you're doing. And she really convinced me, it didn't take much because she's excellent, um, about what it is to look at things like how we feed ourselves and how we move our bodies and why sleep is as essential as Ariana Huffington has been telling us for years. And I believe in all this stuff. And that's another thing I want to say at the top of this. I believe in medicine. I believe in getting checked out by a doctor when you are not well, because I don't ever want people to try to look at the mental and emotional side of something that actually is an infection or is anemia or is, God forbid, a tumor. And I also believe that it matters what we put in our bodies, and it matters how much we sleep, and it matters how we move. And so these things are all, by definition, integrative. We integrate together. We integrate mind, body, and spirit, and we integrate practices in order to be our best selves. And I think the most important thing I can say to you, just the way you always, hear my message, is as long as we don't do things out of fear and urgency, there can be a really helpful place in all of these modalities. As long as we don't say, oh my God, I have to change my diet or else. Oh my God, what if I don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep tonight? That kind of urgency sends such a message of fear to the nervous system. You will have your symptoms kick up because of the dysregulation, because of the fight or flight that you're living in. So, all that to say, I got together with Erica. We had a great conversation. She recently published a 2-volume book set called The Nourish Me Kitchen, and it's not just recipes. One book is largely recipes, many of which I'm excited to try. But the other book is really all about the theories behind what keeps us well and the mindset and the practices from through Erica's lens. And I'm really excited to share her with you because I really appreciated her wisdom and how she adds to all the good work we're doing here. So that is today. Looking forward to sharing that conversation with you. Also want you to know a couple things because we're already in spring. Can you guys freaking believe it? It's like I turned around and we're in March and I'm looking at the summer. It's crazy town. I know that's such a cliche, but it really feels that way for me. Maybe it's because I spent my whole first half of the year preparing for book launch, but anyway, here we are looking at the summer. Most important thing, I just heard from my programmer at Omega, the accommodations are starting to sell out. There are certain levels of accommodations in different categories that are already almost full. If you would like to come to Omega, go to my website, NicoleSachs.com, and click on the retreats tab, and you'll get the information there and the link to sign up, or go to eomega.org and search my name, Nicole Sachs. You'll see our retreat, Freedom from Chronic Pain, come up. We are starting to lock in our guest instructors, of course, Lisa and me, leading the charge, bringing you all of our experience and our love, being in the room with you, being able to just sit with you and know you and hear your stories and share ours. And Gigi Cockell will be back with us doing an incredible job with the brain science, helping you understand exactly what's going on in your brain and why this is happening in your body and how to live in such optimal synergy with that sweet, beautiful, confused brain of yours. And Monica Leah will be back doing somatic tracking, such a powerful exercise. One of you from the audience is chosen to come up on stage. We do real-time exercises. Everyone in the audience does it together. I do it too. Such powerful work. And we're still working on a couple of other surprises. So stick with us. Hang out. We can't wait to spend the week with you. It is June 22nd to the 27th of 2025, and we will be there at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, our only live 5-day retreat of the year. Come sign up and join us. I will also let you know that we are finally fully locked and loaded for our 3 tiers of membership. If you need support, if you can't find your way physically to Omega, we have our $2.99 a month offering where you will be in our Journal Speak interactive community. You can ask questions. You can tell your story. You can hear other people's stories. This is the only way to be in community now. We have shifted it from our Facebook group, which used to be Journal Speak with Nicole Sachs, into a new group. Just go to www.nicolesachs.com, click on the membership tab, and you will see the 3 levels of membership. Support Circle with Nicole is the same as this Journal Speak group used to be, but it will be curated. It will be smaller. The same admins will be there. The same content will be there. And you can be with us interacting. And of course, if you wanted to upgrade, there's also different levels of membership. One where you work with me directly, twice a month live on Zoom, and get my advice every single day in a private community, and one where we are sharing all the content, the podcast interviews, the archives of them all on video. So that's new. We've never done that before until a few weeks ago. And of course, monthly live boot camps with me and different experts, weekly texts from me, some more exciting content that we've actually been working with. We're about to add some new meditations. So it's really exciting, and that's the mid-tier membership. So all of that for you, available for you, and I can't wait to be with you in all these different ways. All right, my loves. So amazing to share this space with you. And I'm very excited to invite you to not only be in the spirit and the emotions and all of our thoughts and feelings, but also in your body with Dr. Erica Siegel. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. So today I am here with Dr. Erica Siegel. Welcome, Erica.
Hi, thank you so much, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
So happy to be here with you. And Dr. Siegel, I'm going to call her Erica because, like,
Yes,
I'm going
please.
to, but she's Dr. Siegel, is an integrative medical doctor. And many of you guys in our community have either already partnered with an integrative physician or have had mixed experiences or are curious about it. So, one of the reasons I was really excited to have Erica on is that she comes from a place within integrative medicine that really makes sense for me and works with what we do here with mind body medicine and with TMS. And so it was important to me, I know I'm very aware that I do a lot. I work under the paradigm of mind body medicine, and I work a lot with the mind and the heart. Rarely do we actually drop into the body. And so I was excited when I got in touch with Erica because I want to talk about the way that it is also essential as you do this inner work to pay attention to what we put in our body, how we treat our body, all the purest reasons that integrative medicine is so valuable. So, before we get into that, welcome, Erica. I would love to hear from you kind of what inspired you to go into this specialty, and what do you think are the most important parts of what you do with people?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have an interest in integrative medicine because I believe that all healing modalities should be on the table, whether it be the pharmaceuticals we use, Reiki, journaling, body work, all of it, whatever works for someone should be considered part of the treatment plan. And I like learning about all the different options that we have and really helping people strategize what their next step is and what are their obstacles to healing and helping them integrate it all. And the second part of your question was, what are the most important things that I think I can help people with? It's really identifying what are the areas of your life and your body and your mind that are perhaps not getting attention, and how to properly take good care of those areas so we can feel whole and we can do our best work in the world and feel resourced to do so.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the biggest challenge of being human is hearing the messages we need to hear. um,
Mm,
from our body, from
yeah.
this dance between the mind and the body and our spirit and our nervous system and our brain and all these factors that come together to create this experience of being alive. And, you know, being human is something that comes with a lot of suffering and stress and huge feelings, and some of them are really positive, like love and excitement, but just to be able to listen carefully to all the ways that our
Mhm.
body speaks to us. So, what I'd love to start with is Dr. Siegel has a book called The Nourish Me Kitchen. It's actually 2 volumes of the book. For those of you watching the video, I'm holding up volume 1 right now, which is Essential Health Wisdom. And they're beautiful books, by the way. They're a very lovely centerpiece of my kitchen right now. The second book is mostly recipes, right?
Yes,
Yes.
300 recipes.
And I
Mhm.
actually have just been getting back into cooking lately, and so I'm actually
Mm,
excited to make some of them. But what I want
great.
to talk to you about more in this conversation is volume 1, this
Mhm,
essential health wisdom. And I know when we were first writing emails back and forth, you alerted me
mhm,
to the beginning, and I really do want to share with everyone that I love the pillars of health, because see, for me,
mhm,
I really, like I said, I'm always in the space of emotions. I'm always in the space of
mhm.
understanding how we can connect with our stored trauma and with the things that might be screaming through our body. But there are many more things that are essential and really valuable about how we treat ourselves that go beyond that. And that's why I love this conversation. And I know in your pillars, there's one about nourish, which is what we eat, how we feed ourselves, breathing, moving, resting. And then we move more into my wheelhouse, which is de stress, perspective, your environment, and technology. But before we go
Mhm.
there, talk to me a little bit about food. I'm actually going to learn something today, because I am a person
Great.
who thinks so little about food and nutrition. And I honestly think the reason I do, it's not that I think little of it in terms of I think poorly of it. I think little of it in terms of the amount of space it takes up in my mind, because I am so busy that I have found a
Great.
small subset of foods that like really, really work for me. And so I kind of use them as my core. And then
Mhm.
I supplement with like sometimes a lot of crap that I probably don't feel so great when I eat, but I want it. But I want to
Right.
learn more, actually, especially I'm 52, I'm almost 53.
Mhm.
I want to start moving into my life with the right foods and learning something about it. So whatever comes to mind as I say this, hit me with it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, our goal is to provide the body with the basic needs, like listening to the body's needs. And so those needs, those nutritional needs for people will vary, obviously, what stage of life we're in, pregnant, raising a baby, or 60 years old, retired, and playing pickleball. Our body will ask of us what it wants, and hopefully we can start to tune in and listen and respond. But basic nutritional needs are to meet our macronutrient needs and our micronutrient needs. Our macronutrients are the big guys: protein, fat, and carbohydrates. It's quite literally what builds our body. And the micronutrients are all the little vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all the cool terms you hear about all the time: beta carotene and polyphenols. These are the things that work to help make our hormones, create neurotransmitters, work in our detox pathways. They're involved in all the minuscule work, which isn't very minuscule at all. It's really how our body functions is based on having enough of these nutrients. Now, when we're trying to build the ideal diet for ourselves, we have to ask ourselves, how does this feel? You've discovered foods like if you eat this, you feel good, you feel energized,
Yes.
you are able to show up in your life. And so it does require some communication with your body, some check-in. But the basics are, when you look at your plate, do I have those micro and macronutrient needs met? The macronutrients meaning, do I have some protein on there? Do I have some fat? And do I have some carbohydrates, which ideally are in the form of a whole food like a sweet potato or some rice, as opposed to processed food like bread or starchy carbohydrates like pastas and cookies and things like that. So really, in the most basic terms, hitting those marks. Every plate is an opportunity to fill it with good stuff, a variety of color, which will tell you that you're hitting your micronutrients, by the way. And getting when you get ample amounts of these foods, it sets a tone in your body for better productivity and healing. So we know that pain is sourced from so many different um, areas of the body, and the emotional system is so wired in there. And the emotional system is also wired in with our neurotransmitter production. Can we make enough dopamine and GABA and serotonin to feel good and feel motivated? Can we make enough of the things that we need to heal? And those building blocks, they do come from food.
So let me ask you a question. And
Yeah.
this is not to be cheeky. This is like really a
Yes.
question because
Yeah.
like I said, I want to think more about this stuff. How
Yeah.
much does it really matter? Like, how much does it
Right.
really matter if you're getting organic food? How much does it really matter if you have a bowl of chips? Like, what's the bottom line about the level of benefit and the level of harm that people are always thinking about what they're doing with their body in terms of what they put into it?
Right. Yeah, it's going to vary person to person, right? If you have someone who's severely ill, then getting strict with diet can often make a big impact. But if you're talking about someone who's generally pretty healthy and feels pretty good, I like to stick by the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
80% of the time, you really try to make your foods whole food based, good stuff, organic if possible, so you're not increasing the load that you now have to detoxify from. And 20% of the time are your favorites that maybe wouldn't fall under the healthy category: the chips, the wine, the beer, some candy, maybe. I mean, I personally don't feel well when I start to have a lot of that in my life. And I've learned, where I can go with the 20% and where I'm best avoiding. But the 80-20 rule is a pretty good place to hit for most people.
So you bring up alcohol.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
know there have been different studies throughout the years about alcohol. I
Yeah.
remember back in the day, it was like, oh, you should drink a glass of red wine, even two. It's good for your, like, I don't even remember what, your heart or your longevity. And I know that a couple of studies that have come out lately are basically like alcohol is a neurotoxin, stay away from it kind of completely. Now, for me, it's kind of hilarious because I stopped drinking 10 years ago. So I just celebrated 10 years of sobriety in January. Yay.
Yeah.
And
Yay.
what's so fun for me is every time a negative article comes out about alcohol, I go, whew, phew. 10 years ago, this would
Go
have
to-
been like a real panic
Yeah.
because of the amount I
Yeah.
was drinking. And now I don't drink at all. So I get to, celebrate no matter what. But I actually am curious. What is your opinion as a doctor? Like, can people drink at all? And if so, what do you feel is safe?
Yeah. Our tolerance for alcohol varies a lot on our genetic ability to detoxify it.
Got it.
So a good percentage of the population has a variation in their liver, in their phases of detox, where they quite literally can't manage the acetaldehyde that is made from ingesting alcohol. And it sort of recycles instead of moves out. And that's
Wow.
why someone can drink a fifth of gin and live to their 90, and another person is tipsy on a half a glass of wine. That's a genetic variation. As we age, and especially as women start to enter perimenopause and menopause, their ability to detoxify alcohol goes down, and they can find themselves all of a sudden feeling really bad with alcohol. Alcohol increases GABA initially. So, GABA being a really relaxing neurotransmitter. So, that's one of the reasons why we feel like, feel a little relaxed. But the problem with that on the other side is after GABA goes down a few hours late, after GABA goes up and your anxiety goes down, a few hours later, the GABA drops off and your anxiety picks up. And that's why a lot of people will report that they have disrupted sleep when they drink
Yes.
alcohol. And as we know, sleep is foundational for our health, for our healing, for our nervous system to feel safe, for our hormones to be made. So that's one of many areas where where alcohol disrupts our life. It can be very hard on our liver, our detoxification. It's something that requires detox. And no matter how good the source is, an organic sulfite-free wine from the best grapes that have the highest antioxidant level, our body still has to mitigate the acetaldehyde. Now, there's always a trade-off, because there are some alcohols that actually have some benefit, like wine, red wine, especially if it's organic. It's going to be really high in those polyphenols and antioxidants. I just don't think that we need to drink red wine to get our sources of polyphenols and antioxidants. We can also eat fruit. We can also eat vegetables. And my body personally doesn't like the way that alcohol feels. I can't detoxify it. So I'm really sensitive to the ways in which it's affecting me. a lot of people will notice the nervous system effect of alcohol. So with prolonged alcohol use, which could even be 3 times a week, people will notice that they will get on a trend of anxiety and depression the next day. And then they will want to drink to get out of that anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
depression. So that really leads to excess drinking, or even just excess reliance on drinking, feeling like you need 1 or 2 drinks a day to take the edge off, because quite literally your nervous system is now wired to go down that excitatory pathway that gets satisfied by alcohol or gets reduced by alcohol. I have tolerance for alcohol in people's lives, a small amount of tolerance, because I also see how it serves them.
Yeah.
There's the social context of meeting a friend for a drink. There's the release of stress that happens when someone has a drink and now they're out dancing, and that is hugely beneficial. So how can we find that balance where maybe we have just a little bit and we can recognize that, maybe 1 drink is just as effective as 3 for getting us some relaxation and the social aspect without burdening our body so much?
What I'm hearing from you is something that really comports a lot with my work, which is what you're saying is everybody's body is different when it comes to alcohol. So your real imperative is to listen to your body.
Yes.
How is it speaking back to you when you drink? And then taking
Mhm.
a question I ask often to my community, which is, what hurts and what hurts worse?
Mm.
Life is a choice between what hurts and what hurts worse. It's not negative, it's just realistic. There's a side effect to
Yeah.
everything we do, good and bad. And so
Yeah.
I like the idea of saying it's not like you can't drink, but it's like really take the time to pause and say, how is this landing in my body? Because technically, if I am not detoxifying it, it's really not good for me.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that listening in is key. Some people feel like they can tolerate it just fine and wake up the next day and they're crushing it. And other people, if they're honest, realize that the next day they're kind of down, didn't have great sleep, and notice maybe more pain in their body, notice more inflammation. It does feed those pathways. And so just becoming honest about how your actions affect you.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Hmm.
So you bring up sleep, which of course is another huge thing, that is a pillar of health. I mean,
Hmm.
I will tell you of all the things
Yeah.
okay, keep my work aside. So forget the emotional work because I do truly think that is the most important, in my opinion, just because obviously that's what I live and breathe. And I don't
Yeah.
think without a regulated nervous system, people can make much progress. That's how
Hmm.
I've seen the world. But of all the rest of them, sleep feels so essential. And it has been my albatross my entire life. I was an anxious kid. I was an insomniac since I was little, like really young. Memories of panicked insomnia, up all night, watching the clock
Hmm.
as young as second grade. And even today, although my sleep is much better, I still really struggle to be as calm as I need. And is there just a way that certain people are built? Like, for example, I have an aura ring. My aura ring is my best friend and my worst enemy.
Mhm.
This
Mhm. Right.
guy knows everything about me, and he likes to tell me every morning that my HRV, which is my heart
Mhm.
rate variation, is
Variability.
basically
Mhm.
like I'm almost dead. Like I am basically having a panic attack all
Yeah.
night in my sleep. And I have tried different ways of relaxing before bed. And I've tried no technology before bed. And I've tried all
Mhm.
these things and it doesn't affect it that much. Are some people
Mhm.
just wired more anxiously? Do you have any advice around sleep?
Yeah, I have advice around sleep. Well, you mentioned that nervous system regulation is at the core of your work. And I would say at the core of nervous system regulation is restorative sleep. Without restorative sleep, your nervous system is going to fire in the sympathetic more, and you're going to be in the fear and fight or flight response more often. So, yes, agree. Sleep is a key piece. Recommendations around sleep. First, to evaluate your patterns around what are you doing before bed? What time are you going to sleep? What are your sleeping conditions? And what are the things that you feel might be obstacles to good sleep. Is it pain? Is it that there's light on in your room shining in your face because you've left the TV on and that's how you fall asleep? There are many obstacles to good sleep that if we actually look at all of the sleep hygiene stuff, which is readily available online, we may find, oh, my room is too hot, or I have my phone 5 inches from my face. So there's a lot of things that we can do to minimize those things. I would say the most important aspects to good sleep are to be regular with your sleep time, like give yourself a bedtime and try to stick to that even on the weekends, even when you're on vacation. Now, sure, sleep in a little bit, but trying not to get away from it too much, especially while you're training yourself to sleep well. Because if we are in disrupted sleep pattern, we really want to do some adult sleep training.
Yeah.
It's like we would do for our babies to help them sleep. We do it for ourselves. And then once we are calibrated to sleep well, then we can stay out late and have a good time and not worry so much. It's been shown in studies that people really do need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours a night. Women tend to need, on average, an hour more than men do. And that those hours, let's say 8 hours, are more beneficial if you log the sleep between 10 at night and 6 in the morning, as opposed to midnight and 8 a.m. So the circadian rhythm is, our association with the light and dark cycles. And when we listen to that more, we can have better sleep. When we wake up, the first thing ideally is for us to have natural light in our eyes, which means put the curtains up, go outside, get sunlight on your skin, get that early morning light in your eyes. I mean, don't stare right up at the sun, but you can look at the sun as it's rising. That is a safe time to look at the sun. That light exposure in the morning helps your sleep at night.
Okay.
That is a real thing to start working on. And it starts to change your mood too. So if you realize you wake up and you're just, artificial lights and you haven't even looked out the window yet, try to train yourself to maybe have your morning drink. I have hot water. Go outside if you can be outside. Get natural light in and around your body. Our brain really has a nice communication with those long wavelength lights, and it helps to retrain our nervous system. Same goes with the nighttime. I try to encourage people to observe the sunset in some way. So they don't have to look at the sunset over the water. We might not have that access, but look outside as the sun is setting. Be outside while the sun is setting, as you just notice the light changing. It will trigger something in your body that will help you regulate your circadian rhythm. And it will help your melatonin production when it's time for sleep. Now, we need to make melatonin before bed. That is going to help us throughout the night have good sound sleep. It also is an antioxidant, hormone. It has a lot of functions in the body. You will not make melatonin very well if you have light shining in actually at your forehead when it's bedtime. So if you fall asleep with a light on while you're reading and you spend those first couple hours with light in your visual field around your forehead, your melatonin production is going to be terrible that night. And a lot of people have that habit. They leave the TV on, they have a bright light on, they have a light in the hallway. They just don't realize how important it is to go to sleep in complete darkness. So if you have a partner who's on the phone or something, wear a little night, a night mask to protect your melatonin production. And then one other tip I'll share is to use, that relates to the light, is to use the blue light blockers. You really don't want that blue light coming in. So you can put on your phone that every night at 9 o'clock, your light on the phone switches to blue light, or switches to red light, or you can wear glasses, something like that. And I would recommend a meditation or a breathing exercise before bed. I really like the yoga nidra meditations because they bring you into your body. They help you form that relationship with your body where you're going systematically down your body and relaxing each part and having that conversation with your body. It creates a lot of safety and a lot of awareness in the body. And it does help people go to sleep.
I love all this stuff. One of my things that I really profess is that we have to learn simple ways to live in the solution.
Yes.
Our society is rife with people who are experts telling us what the problem is. And I
Hmm.
feel like so rarely
Definitely.
are people just saying, okay, let's identify the problem. Let's completely, become in alignment with that which is wrong. But also, here are some simple things that you can
Hmm.
do to improve the things that are attached to the other things. So I mean, your specialty is
Right.
integrative medicine. That is by its very definition integrating the different parts of us. And I'm sitting
Hmm.
here saying, okay, well, if we don't have nervous system regulation, we stay in chronic cycles. And like that's what I want. That's what I love about this conversation for everyone listening. Nervous system regulation is a team sport, right? It has to be, your journal speak work and everything you're doing to keeping your eye on the prize. And here's another thing I want to say, and we can move into this topic next about integrative medicine and my trepidation around
Hmm.
this
Right.
specialty, is that I want people to understand that from my perspective, all of the things that Eric and I are talking about today are so important. They just can't take the place of the emotional work that people need to do when they are chronically ill and trying so hard with diet and with sleep and with
Hmm.
exercise and with all of these great tools, but not yet
Hmm.
either knowing or willing to look at this repressed emotional side. But anyone
Yeah.
here is obviously in that already in that mindset. So I want to say I love the idea of understanding that this is a team sport. And if you are
Hmm.
not getting the right kind of sleep or are not prioritizing the right kind of sleep, because there's no magic, wand that's going to make it perfect, but you can
Right.
do these simple things. You can decide that it's a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. versus a midnight to 8 a.m. effort. You can decide to be mindful, which by the way, I have been mindful about several of the things you mentioned. I sleep
Right.
in like a 67-degree temperature, which I've been
Hmm.
told is kind of the sweet spot. I
Hmm.
make sure not only that all of my lights are off, but even like the little tiny pinprick light of my Apple TV, I go through the
Yeah.
extra step, which is a little annoying, guys, but I of like
Yeah.
making it go to sleep so it
Yeah.
won't be on for the first hour of my sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
Um and I put my phone on do not disturb. I make sure it's not right next to my head. So all of these things really I want people to know like our job as human beings is to pay attention and to pay
Yes.
attention to all the
Yeah.
things that could be beneficial to our human experience. And so these are all really great tips and they can seem simple, but what I often say is it's simple but it's not easy because you have
Yeah.
to change your behaviors, and changing behaviors
Yeah.
is not necessarily easy, but if you
True.
prioritize it, you can get
Hmm.
yourself there. So let's talk a little bit about integrative medicine. So I
Hmm.
am looking through your books. I'm loving what I'm reading. I'm loving what I'm hearing from you. And then I have people come to me all the time that say, I've had a very challenging experience with an
Hmm.
integrative physician because they did tons of tests that were incredibly expensive. They
Yeah.
found problems with my body along the lines of, let's call it gut irregularities or the wrong kind of
Hmm.
bacteria. They put me
Right.
on supplements that were thousands and thousands of dollars, and I
Right.
feel no better. And so help me
Hmm.
build the bridge here because I don't want there to be a bad taste about any particular specialty. I want people to get the best of what is each specialty. So,
Right.
how does that land with you?
Yeah, I mean that is can be a common story. It's not. I think you may get a different um, population that's talking to you because they haven't seen a change
Of
and
course.
they're
Yeah.
really frustrated. Yeah, just like I see a lot of people who would say that conventional medicine really failed them, and they're looking for something else. So I might think that there's a larger percentage of people out there that
Oh,
with that
both.
story.
Trust me, both from
Um,
my perspective, from my audience.
right.
Both have failed,
Yes, of
yes.
course. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how integrative medicine has grown to be so high tech and maybe always looking for this puzzle piece that's outside of the person. Like, okay, we're going to find mold or Lyme or SIBO or fill in the blank. And it may be those things, but I think the job of any physician, not just a functional medicine doctor or integrated practitioner, I think the job of any physician is to talk to our patients about the foundational needs of the body and start there. Like, how's your sleep? Are you moving your body? Are you eating nutritious food? Are you addressing the emotional piece, which obviously gets ignored in most doctors' visits and has been the mainstay of your work? Are we addressing those things before we start searching for the red herring or whatever that term is, that one little missing piece? Instead of trying to sell someone on the newest peptide or shockwave therapy or some newfangled approach to manage their pain or manage their gut symptoms or manage their sleep, are we addressing the pillars? That is always what I come back to. I'm 21 years into practice, and I am more dedicated to the foundations of health now than I was when I started.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I started, I always wanted to find that puzzle piece, the new thing that I just learned about that was going to heal everybody. And the longer I have been practicing, the more I realize that we have to give the body what it desires, what it needs for healing. And it's not always something out of reach. Sometimes it's a deep dive into our personal life and some better hydration and getting some movement back in our body. It doesn't always have to be something out of our reach. Often it's just kind of right there in front of us. We just think it couldn't be that easy. It couldn't be that easy that addressing the relationship with my father or addressing this thing could really shift my whole body. And that is actually what I find happens most often. So my response is that I wish that more physicians were advising patients to take good care of themselves. And then sure, we'll do appropriate testing, but don't start there. Start with the basics,
Yeah, that makes
which
a lot of
includes the
sense.
emotional health.
Talk to me about elimination diets, because that's another thing that I hear associated, and this could be a misassociation. So I don't know if I'm being correct in terms of your lens, but I find that people are associating often elimination diets with functional or integrative medicine. And
Yeah. Yeah.
well, the question I have is this. And this is once again, like you said, rightfully so. People come into my work who have oftentimes felt frustrated with different modalities. So I might be hearing this more often than is reasonable. Um,
Right.
but people have said that they go to doctors, oftentimes functional doctors, for things like migraines and pelvic pain and things of that sort. And they're told, well, you're eating too many inflammatory foods. And that's why you have inflammation. And these people, at least from the ones I've met, nearly all of the time have found these elimination diets to be so infuriating and to be so leaving them in a place of self-pity and of despair and of frustration, that their symptoms get worse even though they've eliminated on paper so many
Mm-hmm.
inflammatory foods. And once they've done the work, at least through my lens of doing the emotional work, doing the journal speak, getting their repressed emotional reservoirs down, and that now they're symptom free, they're literally eating anything they want. They're eating tomatoes and nightshade vegetables. And I'm not talking about, and I'm sure I could see in your face, I'm not talking about like chips and ice cream. I'm talking about people who are
Right.
eliminating tomatoes. So talk
Right.
to me a little bit about that.
Okay. So I'll just explain what an elimination diet is for people that might not be familiar. An elimination diet is the concept that something that you're eating may be causing you pain or a symptom, headaches, or even mood changes, pain in your knees, and trying to identify what those foods may be by scaling the diet back to a very simple plan of likely safe foods that most people can tolerate: chicken and rice, zucchini, and apples and oats, and what have you. It's very limiting and it's very challenging because you scale the diet back and then you have to reintroduce things one at a time to see what that response is in your body. Now, I can tell you that I've done diets like this throughout, 20 years. Of course, I have supported people in this, and sometimes they're life-changing in a positive way. Sometimes they're just frustrating and everything in between. And the reality is that there are a lot of reasons why our body might be in an inflamed and painful state. And I think it benefits the person in front of me to tell them the different things that I see that might be contributing. So I will look for other patterns in someone's story that would point towards that. If someone tells me, if I go out to dinner and I wake up the next morning and my hands are swollen, I can't fit my rings on, I'm so swollen and my knees hurt so much that I can barely walk up the stairs, then I say, you know what? It sounds like something that you're eating may be triggering inflammation and pain in your body. Let's refine the diet a little bit, scale it back, and see if that helps. And I'll give them a list of the likely agents, and let's see how that works. And I always have conversations about how would that affect your lifestyle? Is this going to be terrible for you,
Right.
or just does this feel like a form of freedom because you're like, tell me 10 things to eat and I'll do it. Some people like that. I would not. But some people actually want to simplify. Just tell me what to put in the smoothie, tell me what to make for dinner, and I'm going to do that. And that can be very healing for them because if they have certain gut issues or immune issues, they may be responding to certain foods. What you mentioned about tomatoes, those are nightshades. Nightshades can cause an inflammatory response for some people. When someone has osteoarthritis and they have inflammation and pain in most of their major joints, I might say, sounds like you have arthritis. You may want to try this for a week, see if it makes a difference. That doesn't mean that I'm not trying other things. It means that I'm exploring all of the things that could be a causative factor. And our diet, that's something that is part of our life every single day. Mm-hmm. Every day we're choosing what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I believe those choices have a major impact on our health. And I want to educate people that different food will have a different impact and to start to tune in because you might learn something from that relationship. And you may discover, like one of my patients, every time she eats gluten, her knees swell up and she can barely walk. If she just leaves it out of the diet, her knees don't hurt. For her, it wasn't emotionally based. Sure, if we keep digging backwards, there might be emotions under that. Of course, we're emotional beings, but she knows that gluten will trigger knee pain. So I just, I like to stay realistic that there are a lot of different causative factors. And I would never tell someone your inflammatory diet is making you have pain and inflammation, but I'll say, I'm looking at your diet and I see a lot of foods that can cause inflammation for some people.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's where I'm always wanting everybody to just pause, take a look at the landscape of your life and treat your body in a way that feels good to you. I used to say back before so much of the science caught up with what I teach, because now I can pull studies from Harvard and UCLA and University of Michigan. Like it's much easier now to say this is proof that there is a mind-body connection and there's brain science behind why you are suffering. But back before that science really caught up, let's call it 10, 15 years ago, I used to just say to people, I'm going to tell you something that has worked, with thousands of people around the world. And you can choose to be skeptical, you can choose to believe it, but the only question that really matters is, how do you feel today? How do you feel today? Do you have energy? Do you feel well in your body? Do you feel open to being present and moments of joy? Because once you do, to me, that overrides what you ate, how you slept, because what you eat and how much emotional work you've done, because all of those things will ladder up to you feeling as great as you can possibly feel, or of course the opposite, which is really struggling. And so I like the idea of looking at diet in a way that I like to call wearing it loosely, which is we can take stock of what we eat, but we can't be scared of what we eat. I have had people come to me and be like, oh my God, I spun out. I had the worst migraine because I was eating this salad and I was chewing and swallowing before I realized it was a tomato. And oh my God, then I had a panic attack. And I get it, because if there's certain messages not delivered through your lens, but delivered through certain lenses about how dangerous
Oh yeah.
anything can be, we're going to have a
Every food.
response. Yeah.
Every food has made its way to the chopping block
Yes.
and has become a danger to society. I mean, in as far as the messaging,
Yes.
and that can be really hard for people to navigate. They feel lost. Like, where do I even start?
Exactly. And I'll
Hmm.
tell you what I've done in the very, very limited way that I do think about food, which once again, I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm saying I want to be a bit more mindful, is that I've thought about protein. And I
Hmm.
know for my body that if I eat protein first thing in the morning, meaning the first meal I eat is heavier on the
Hmm.
protein, I will feel better all day. And I've learned
Yes,
that through trial and error. And I think it
exactly.
probably does line up with the science, but like some people, and I know them, can eat a bagel with cream cheese and have that be their breakfast. And there's no judgment on
Right.
that. But if I
Yeah.
do, I will not feel as energized and as well as if it's, some Greek yogurt and a little bit of granola or an egg or something like that. So I think it's
Right.
really just about paying attention through the best practices of what feels good for you.
I agree. It's paying attention without shame and without fear.
Yes.
It's with curiosity. Oh, okay, I did that and I feel this way. And like you were mentioning before, how do you feel today? Do you feel receptive? That receptivity is, I think, what leads us to making the right choices for ourselves. When we start to clear the emotional layers and um, the pain from that level, then we can start to tune in, and your body just gives you a little yes or a little no or a little maybe regarding food as well. Like, you don't have to outsource all of those decisions. You can actually ask yourself, how would I feel if I ate this? And you start to desire the right things for yourself. Like, you wake up and desire the egg or the Greek yogurt because your body's like, this is how I start, this is how I feel really good. If you saw a donut, you're probably like,
Yeah.
that just doesn't, that's not going to feel great. Like, your nervous system reacts even before your brain will. And the more you tune in, which
Yes.
I think your work is so beautiful in giving people permission to tune in, giving them tools to tune in, not just to like identify the beast that's there, but it's really about a relationship with your body. And then you can make all these different choices from that place, about eating, about mobility, about relationships, about all of it. And it just becomes easier to take good care of yourself because you're coming from this empowered, intuitive space.
Totally. And actually, as I'm looking down at your book and thinking about the other volume, I'm thinking that this is also a really good place to talk about the two lenses through which we can view life, love and fear. I think it's
Yes.
pretty ubiquitous that there are two ways to go into something. And just the most basic way to say it is you can go into it motivated by fear or you can go to it motivated by love. And I
Hmm.
really think that a great way, everyone listening, to look at any change in your life is how can I embark upon it through the lens of love? Because when I
Hmm.
personally look down at these beautiful volumes, I think I could be tempted to think, oh my God, I don't do enough cooking. Oh God,
Right.
I'm not getting enough,
Not enough.
good nutrients. I better. Oh my God, like it's been, when
Yeah.
am I
Should
ever,
it?
like just that panicky,
Yeah.
shaming, judgmental lens. And I actually am proud of myself because when I look at, the thought of like trying a new recipe, I'm
Hmm.
actually really just excited. Like, I'm
Yeah.
excited at the thought of like, let me thumb through it. Let me find
Right.
something that looks delicious, that has ingredients that feel like they feel good in my body, and let me just try it. And if I kind of, halfway screwed up, oh well. And if it's not perfect,
Right.
oh well. But like, I just really invite everyone who
Hmm.
is looking to make any of these changes or just to pay more attention, just do it through that lens of like wonder and curiosity and love
Yeah.
instead of that panic. Because if you do anything through that lens of panic, it causes more pain.
Absolutely. 100%. It's so true. When we give ourselves permission to choose something that actually maybe feels like a little exciting and like choose through pleasure, we feel like maybe we're cheating, but we're not. It's okay if you get that book and the first thing you want to make are the cookies. Like, make the cookies. That's not a cheat. That's great. Now you've learned how to make really healthy cookies that are probably maybe better than the ones you would have bought. And this idea of going from a place of compassion instead of the shoulding
Yes.
on yourself.
Yes.
We're not going to get anywhere with that. And even like choosing to have the donut, let's say you decide to have the donut instead of the Greek yogurt and granola. You could choose to have the donut, but do it with intention.
Yeah.
All right, today I'm going to have a donut and like celebrate it. Like, be in a place of joy with it instead of I'm going to eat this and feel shame.
Yes.
Eat it, feel joy with choice, with intention. Because I do think your relationship with your choices are just as important as the choice, or maybe even more important.
No,
The
agreed.
relationship that you
Agreed.
have with it.
Because I often say it's not about the choice that you make. It's about your ability to come into full alignment with it. Because
Yeah,
anything
exactly.
you choose can be the right choice for the moment if you can come into full alignment with it. And
Yeah,
alternatively, everything you choose can be the wrong choice if you don't come into full alignment with it, because then you're just going to be fighting
right.
yourself the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to eat something that tastes disgusting to them, or because it's supposed to be good for them, but with every bite they're wincing.
Yes.
That's not the relationship that we want to have with our body and with our movement practices. I was supporting a woman recently on a like a one-on-one intensive, like trying to kind of support her in like up leveling her life. And one of the things that we did together was some movement. And I said, okay, I want to do a little yoga together. She said, oh, I'm terrible at yoga. I hate yoga. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's just sit with that. And so I said, let's just sit down in the most comfortable position you could imagine sitting. And she got in a position, and I was like, okay, great. So we're just going to sit with our knees up and we're going to do this. And from this place, this is where we did yoga. Yoga was just union of ourself with our movement, with our breath. We didn't do one thing that was a named yoga pose. We just moved in shapes that felt pleasurable. And at the end, she couldn't believe it was a mind blowing experience for her, because she said, I didn't know you could do yoga like that.
Yeah.
She felt like there were rules that you had to stick to instead of just moving your body in pleasurable ways that opened her up. And she ended up moving her body a lot. And it was because she let the rules go and she just tuned into what felt good. Now that's powerful.
Oh, I could literally talk to you for hours. I am like looking at my watch and realizing that it is
Yeah.
like we're already over 45 minutes in, and truly, like I don't think we've
Yeah.
scratched the surface. So I may need to have you
Mhm.
back at some point for
I'd
another
love to be back.
conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I just think when we look at our whole body health, there's nothing more important than just slowing down, tapping in, and paying attention to what feels good, and then being able to seek out the advice and the expertise in the places where you're feeling a little bit deficit, like where you're feeling like you could make some changes and really see some positive results. So I am going to commit to this. I am going to so Dr. Erica Siegel's book is The Nourish Me Kitchen. It is 2 volumes. It comes together. It's beautiful. And I am going to spend some time with my second volume. There it is. She's holding it up for you guys to see. I'm going to spend some time with the second volume, the one with the recipes, and I am going to make a couple, and I will check back in with you on how delightful that felt, because I really do think the biggest barrier to health in general is resistance. It's resistance to change. It's resistance to our own voices that say, oh, God, you're going to do that. That's such a drag. It's about partnering with our resistance and saying, why are you here? And that's a really great prompt for your journal speak practice if you're resisting one of these things that we've talked about today, if you're like, no, I don't want to cut down my drinking, or no, I don't want to go to bed before 1 a.m. That's what I like, and you're feeling that little kind of kicky toddler voice. Instead of just either fighting it or succumbing to it, ask it. Ask it, Why are you so opinionated? What is in there? What's underneath? What are you trying to say? And then take that to your journal speak practice, because when we can un when we can unmask and unveil resistance and allow ourselves to look at like what it really is, then we have the power to change our lives. We have the power to make different decisions. So anyway, that's my pledge to myself and my suggestion for everybody. So Erica, where can people find you and find everything about you if they want to learn more about the stuff we've talked about today?
Great. Yeah, people can go to nourishme.com. That's my website, the hub where everything lives. You can learn about my books. I'm on Amazon. The book set is there, The Nourish Me Kitchen. It's a great investment for your life. And yeah, I welcome any conversation. I have a lot of articles about lots of different topics. I like to go deep into the nitty gritty, like mitochondrial health or big, broad topics like we did today, because I think there's room for all of it in healing. And I do agree that resistance is the way, inviting it into your life, getting curious without shame and guilt. And then it just sort of shifts and morphs and you find yourself more in alignment with your choices. And thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's going to make a big difference in the world.
Well, thank you. And that was all fantastic. And I am going to be spending time on your website myself because I want to, I just like to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. And I want to learn about my body and I want to learn about, the choices I could make just to feel great. Cause like, why not? Why not feel the best we can feel, like in every possible way? All right. Well, Dr. Erica Siegel, thank you for being with us so much. And for everybody out there, as you know, this is the Cure for Chronic Pain podcast with me, Nicole Sachs. And if you are enjoying it, hop over to iTunes and rate and review the podcast. It really helps people find it. And until next week, I will see you then. Bye bye.